Compact is, sorry for those interruptions, is the multi-stakeholder global governance system. So that really addresses both what is needed, reality, the new legitimacy of the UN, but most importantly, the effectiveness and the outcomes is these new kinds of multi-stakeholder partnerships across the UN system. That's the direction, and sourcing, financing, ideas, know-how, leadership from outside of governments, let alone the UN Secretariat working on the ground. But on a final point is that, with so much gloom and doom, don't forget the Iraq War. People were writing, scholars like ourselves were saying the end of international law going into the 2005 UN60 summit. And yet that's when R2P was adopted as a new global principle, thanks to scholars, Tom Weiss and others who've contributed to that work. The peace-building architecture was erected. The Human Rights Commission got an upgrade. Don't say we can't do it. We have to be pragmatic. We have to have our ear on the ground. We have to build coalitions and not be afraid to get ourselves dirty in politics and policy making. That's why we've created the GGIN. I'll stop there.
Sultan, are you still with us? Maybe he's frozen.
Yeah, I can hear you, yes.
So maybe go to the question from Dr. Daley, unless one of my colleagues wants to come in.
Okay, if no one is coming in, we'll move on to Tad Daley.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Barakat. Thank you, all of you, for this terrific roadmap. Thank you, Richard, for the shout out about various things I leaned on you to include in the report. Before I ask my question, I really want to issue this caveat that the United States is not the only country in the world. It's one of 193, and there are many variables to consider regarding this whole roadmap besides American politics. But with that caveat, I do want to say something about American politics, which you, Richard, and I have talked about for many years. You made this crucial point that in September of 2023, we still know who the American president is going to be at that point. Lord knows who we're going to get in 2024. I want to endorse that point, but also elaborate and enhance it a little bit by pointing out that another great advantage to aiming for September of 2023 is that we won't be in the middle of an American presidential campaign. It'll be heating up by then, but it won't be anything like September and October of 2020. I just want to remind us that this was a very unfortunate confluence of events way back in the primordial history of humankind, by which I mean the summer of 2015, when the Albright-Gambari Commission issued its report. Y'all talked about, I think you called it a World Conference on Global Institutions, happening in September or October of 2020. And it's just very unfortunate that that was a month or two before this landmark American presidential election. So it's great to aim for September of 2023. It's unfortunate that the UN75 and the American 2020 election were just a couple of weeks apart. And I'll close by saying this: if by wild chance we don't get everything we desire in the global governance innovation world in September of 2023, it's worth, I think, already starting to think about 2 years later. The 80th anniversary, of course, will be October 24th, 2025. And that will be just 1 year into the new American presidential administration. If we're stuck with President DeSantis or something at that point, we'll have problems. But again, we will avoid being in the middle of an American presidential campaign. So let's think about both September 2023 and the 80th anniversary as great opportunities, ideally, for global governance innovations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tad. I'll give the floor to Monica. And Monica, while you're at it, maybe also reflect on the degree of appetite that exists for reform within the UN. Monica.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that thinking about a bit what was the experience of the 2005 World Summit, that if there is a place where pressure should be applied, and I think the report provides a fantastic basis and a fantastic platform to carry on a campaign, is around the Secretary General, because really what is at stake is the relevance of the UN. It really made an impact on me, the comment made by the pledge made within a EU or G20 summit rather than the UN itself around the COVID vaccines, compared to what had been achieved at COVAX. So I think in terms of where pressure should be focused, I think the Secretary General and the Secretariat, together with a constellation of allies, could be fundamentally important.
Thank you so much. And to conclude, we have a question that basically says, out of the 24 innovations you've proposed, if you were to be asked what are the 10 most important and can be accomplished first, what would you choose? And I'll leave this to the panelists.
Yeah, and I'm realizing we are also helping Aiken's team and backstopping technically this meeting. And one of our hosts for this meeting can't pull the plug on this one and then help the next one unless we wrap up. So I'm going to be super brief and say, fortunately, we have a report that answers that question. It's our top 10 list from last year brought out on Charter Day at the Aiken's annual meeting. In fact, it's our UN 2.0 report. Whoever asked that, please be in touch and we'll share. And it's a subset of ideas that are still, I think, our favorite issues, many of which my colleague Banu Arjaman articulated in her remarks. They're a subset of the 24 or so that are highlighted in connection with the 12 UN75 Declaration commitments in this year's report. So, but we really want to thank everybody. Back to you to close, Sultan, and I hope everybody will go to the next sessions beginning in the next 10 minutes and enjoy the rest of the Aiken's annual meeting. Back to you, Sultan.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for our panelists. Thank you for Dr. Monica Serrano for her acting as a discussant. And wish you all the best for the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.